With Hungarian-born physicist Leo Szilard, Albert Einstein developed a novel refrigeration scheme that involved no motors, moving parts, or coolant. The idea exploits the fact that water boils at low temperatures and at low pressure. This is why water boils at low temperature at the top of the Mount Everest than it does at Death Valley in California's Mojave Desert. Einstein and Szilard had the idea to place a flask of butane on a flame burner and under a vapor of ammonia. Because the ammonia vapor had a low pressure, it lowered the boiling point of the butane, and as the butane boiled off, it sucked the energy from its surroundings, cooling an adjacent compartment. Take a look at the question now. Which choice describes the function of the underlined sentence in the text as a whole? Option A, it shows that Mount Everest experiences lower pressure than Death Valley. Option B, it demonstrates that Mount Everest and Death Valley are two geographic regions that experience different pressures. Option C, it illustrates that water boils at lower temperatures in low pressure regions. Or option D, it explains how various properties of water can significantly differ in different geographies. So let's take an understanding of what the text says, and then we could find out what is the function of the text. So towards the just before the underlined portion, you could clearly see that the author begins by stating that Albert Einstein and Leo Szilard they developed a new refrigeration scheme, and that involved no motors, no moving parts, or coolant. Right. The next line clearly states that this idea exploits the fact that water boils at low temperatures at low pressure. Right, so the line before the underlined portion illustrates a fact. What is the fact? The fact is that water boils at low temperatures and at low pressures. So this is a fact, and this is why water boils. The underlined portion tells us that this is the reason why water boils at low temperatures at the top of Mount Everest than it does in Death Valley's California's Mojave Desert, right? So you could clearly see that the underlined portion elaborates or gives us a reason for the fact. It clearly explains the fact there, right? So the underlined portion clearly explains the fact that water boils at low temperatures and at low pressure. So let's make a note of what we have. So first we have the fact which is clearly given before the underlined portion, right? The fact is that water boils at low temperatures and at low pressure. We know that, right? They've clearly given that. And then you see the underlined portion starting with this is why. Okay, so it clearly means that the underlined portion is clearly giving us the reason for the fact, or it's explaining the fact, to put in simple words, right? We could clearly know that by looking at the phrase this is why. So it clearly explains the fact, right? So it also gives us an example of Mount Everest and Death Valley to explain that fact clearly. So let's make a note of the prediction here. So the purpose or the function of the underlined line should be that the author has used Mount Everest and Death Valley to just give examples to strengthen that fact, right? Right. So you could clearly see that these are two examples that the author has given to just explain that fact or to just strengthen that particular fact or to prove that the fact is correct. So that is the work of that is the function of the underlined portion, just to strengthen the fact given in the previous text, so previous line. So let's take a look at the options one by one. Option A, it showed that Mount Everest experiences low pressure than Death Valley. A can be factually correct, but it does not describe the purpose of the underlined portion. The underlined portion is just to strengthen the fact given in the previous line. Right, so that is the bigger purpose of the underlined portion, and just not to show that Mount Everest experiences low pressure than Death Valley. So option A can be eliminated. Moving on to option B. It demonstrates that Mount Everest and Death Valley are two geographic regions that experienced different pressures. Now B is again factually correct, may be factually correct, but again it does not appropriately describe the purpose of the underlined text. Like the purpose of the underlined text is to strengthen the fact given in the previous line. So B can therefore be eliminated. Moving on to option C. It illustrates that water boils at low temperatures in low pressure regions. Right, so C is the right answer because that explains the purpose of the underlined portion in the most effective way. Right, so it elaborates or it explains the fact. What is the fact? Water boils at low temperatures in low pressure regions, right? So the underlying portion illustrates or strengthens that fact. So C is the right answer. Let's keep it on hold. Moving on to option D, it explains how various properties of water can significantly differ in different geographies. Now again, D is also incorrect because various properties of water is not discussed in the passage. Only one property is discussed. That's the boiling point. So therefore option D can be eliminated. The correct answer for this question should be option C. It illustrates that water boils at low temperatures in low pressure regions.